All right. Number 11, coming in at number 11, squeaking in under the line is Carlton Davis's old team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They do have Jamel Dean. Carlton Davis's replacement is Zion McCollum. He's a decent player. He's graded around 72, 73 PFF. And then Christian Izien is the nickel. So they're a little thin there. He's kind of a nobody. Didn't have a lot of snaps last year. So they are thin at the secondary. Losing Carlton Davis hurt the Bucs. You got anything to add on the Bucs?
I don't know how big that loss is going to be. I think it's going to be bigger than that. I almost didn't have them on this list, but we ended up agreeing with putting Tampa Bay Buccaneers right here, even with the loss of Carlton Davis, because they do draft cornerbacks well and develop cornerbacks well over there. So the next man up, maybe I might believe in that a little bit.
That's a good take. And Jamel Dean is a beast over there at the one corner. Okay. And that's why I really could Tampa Bay and Minnesota right here at 11 and 12. You could interchange them and I'd be okay because for me, Jamel Dean plays outside corner. He's guarding the number one on your team every week, whereas Josh Metellus for the Vikings plays slot corner. The positional value pushed Tampa over the line for me here at number 11. Coming in at number 10, it's a team that hasn't made a lot of lists for us for the Villain Squad at very many positions, but their secondary, not bad at all, and that is the Carolina Panthers coming in at number 10. They have J.C. Horn, who's a Pro Bowl caliber corner. And they also got Dane Jackson over from the Buffalo Bills. And they got Troy Hill, who's a solid developing nickel corner. Did you have a graphic for Carolina?
Yes, I do. There you go.
No, there it is.
Yeah, okay. There it is.
Number 10, the Panthers. Dane Jackson, J.C. Horn, and Troy Hill. I think that's better than what you've got in Minnesota. I think that's better than what you've got in Tampa Bay. J.C. Horn and Dane Jackson are frontline starters in this league. Troy Hill's a young, developing nickel corner with promise. I like him there at 10. Too bad their quarterback's 4 foot tall.
You know, Troy Hill had a coverage grade of 66.9. He was okay. They had Shaq Griffin over there, but J.C. Horn is just a stud. I think that he's a top 5 cornerback, maybe even in the NFL. Yeah, and they had A.J. Parker. Remember him?
Mm-hmm. Another Lions cast off.
And he was pretty good last year. So they have a bunch of guys that can kind of play. You know?
Yeah, and bringing over Dane Jackson from Buffalo. That was a great addition to this secondary. I mean, they lost Brian Burns. They got some problems over there. They didn't make the cut on running backs or wide receivers or tight end. They didn't make top 11 list for us.
No. They got to be on one list, right, Mike?
No, Dane Jackson and J.C. Horn, that's a good corner duo.
Yeah,
and Dane Jackson coming over from Buffalo is a big addition. Coming in at number 9 is another former Buffalo Bill. And that's Tre'Davious White, who joins the LA Rams. And they land on our list at number 9, top cornerback rooms in the NFC. Tre'Davious White comes over from Buffalo, and they have a guy named Darius Williams, who really came into his own last year. Do you have a PFF grade for this guy? And then Kobe Durant playing the nickel, a good young nickel. They develop DBs over there very well. Darius Williams from the Rams. Take a look at this guy. He played outstanding. I guess going against Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua every day in practice, iron sharpens iron type of thing. But Tre'Davious White and Darius Williams, that's enough to get you into the top 11 cornerback rooms in the NFC.
Yeah, they have a guy named Witherspoon that played a lot of snaps that was okay as far as PFF is concerned. And then Quentin Lake, he was actually one of the higher graded LA cornerbacks that they had.
There's been so much roster turnover everywhere, though, so you can't really look at that. But put it in the comments. Tell us what you think about these ratings our little pea brains came up with. If you think it's any good, think it's terrible, we're moving along. We're at number 8 now, and number 8 is the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. The Green Bay Packers come in at number 8 in their cornerback room. And that is, of course, Jair Alexander, who's one of the best, probably top 5. They've also got Eric Stokes, and Keyshawn Nixon now is going to be the starting nickel corner for Green Bay, the return specialist. They lost Jonathan Owens. They lost Darnell Savage. They lost some of their depth. But they bring in Xavier McKinney at safety. That's going to help this room. And Jair is a frontline guy, no doubt. And Eric Stokes is a promising young player as well. I think they're right where they belong here at number 8, Russ, for Green Bay. What do you think?
I think it's good. I mean, Jair Alexander was really, really good a couple of years ago, maybe even in the top 10 in cornerbacks. But I don't know. He was okay last year. He was decent last year in coverage. He was kind of a liability in the run game a little bit. Nixon was pretty good. So they have a lot of promise because they have a lot of young guys. I could see them having a better season and moving their way up this list because of the depth, because they have a bunch of guys that are pretty good, but none of them that are like that top end guy. I don't think Jair is a top end guy.
You don't?
I don't.
Wow.
Well, he didn't play like that last year.
Well, our resident Packer fan, Steve, says rookie Kalen King might be and could be the slot corner. He disagrees with me that Keyshawn Nixon's going to be the slot corner. I mean, we mentioned the Green Bay Packers land on the list, and Steve pops his head up out of a hole like a gopher and says, we should be higher than 8.
But
based on what? And by the way, the Keyshawn Nixon thing, that's right from ESPN. That's, if you go look up their depth chart right now. And as I gave context to at the beginning here, Steve, we kind of based Mike Clay from ESPN, the analyst who ranked all the cornerback rooms. This is kind of where we used a baseline to start our rankings from. And that's, he had the Green Bay Packers at 13th in the entire league. So that would fall right about 8th in the NFC. In fact, in the NFC, they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They are 8th, the 8th team in the NFC, according to ESPN. And Keyshawn Nixon is the starting slot corner, according to ESPN, on the preliminary depth chart.
Yeah, and I know that you guys love your guys that you drafted, and Eric Stokes was a high draft pick for you guys, but he's not been good. Like, he hasn't been very good for you. I mean, you want him to be good. You want your, I can't wait till my high round draft pick comes back. But, you know, he hasn't shown out. So I am not going to put a team higher just because, I think he might one day be good. That goes some of it into it, but not all the way. Like, you can't just have it all be off of projection for the future. There has to be some evidence there too. There you go. But I think that's not bad. I mean, 8th in the NFC, when you see the teams that are going to go ahead and why, I don't think that you're going to feel so bad.
To your point, though, Steve, our next team that's on this list is the Philadelphia Eagles. And ESPN also has Quinyon Mitchell as the starting corner and James Bradbury backing him up. So they have a rookie starting, and that's their projection that I don't agree with. I mean, Quinyon Mitchell might be awesome, all this, but James Bradbury was the better of the two corners last year with Darius Slay. Darius Slay actually is on the decline. His advanced metrics the last 3 years have shown a downward trend, last year being his worst year. So they bring in Quinyon Mitchell, rookie, the first corner drafted, an incredible athlete. And they also get Cooper DeJean from Iowa in the safety room. So,
yeah.
And they bring back Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to play nickel or to play safety. But they actually have another guy named Avone Maddox, who's a heck of a player, and they got him penciled in to start at nickel. So this team has got a lot of talent in it in this room, but they're a little long in the tooth. Darius Slay's on the decline. Bradbury's on the back 9 of his career, but they replenished Howie Roseman, such a wizard of a GM. And Mike Clay has them actually in the top 10 on his list in the entire league. They fall at number 7 here on the villain squad.
I was going to throw in, I'm just throwing in some PFF grades here. Keely Ringo from a guy that they just drafted last year. It was a demon in the run defense last year as a cornerback, 74.2, and was pretty good in the pass rush as well. Only 233 snaps, but these are the type of guys that you think are going to grow. Not only do they have good guys that are frontline starters, but they do have depth because they do know how to draft over there in Philadelphia too. So where I had Philadelphia ahead of Green Bay was just the depth part on the back end of it because they do have more depth.
While you've got PFF up, can you look up a couple of players for me? And that would be on the team that comes in number 6 on our list.
Okay.
And that is the New Orleans Saints. Everybody knows about Marshawn Lattimore. He's been in the league a long time. He's a great corner. But they don't know about these other 2 guys that they've got. And that is namely Paulson Adebo and Alontae Taylor, who plays the nickel.
Okay, well, it's really, really simple. Adebo is awesome, and Taylor struggled last year. Adebo had I want to call him Adebo because he wants him Adebo.
That's my bike.
That's right. He had an 80 grade in coverage last year, and he also had a 80 grade in tackling. And a 78.6 overall in the defense. So according to PFF, he was really balling out. So that meets what you were talking about right there.
Right. And again, my point is Paulson Adebo is not a household name. Okay.
Right.
You don't know this guy. You know more about Quinyon Mitchell than you do Paulson Adebo. And that's why the New Orleans Saints are above the Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers on this list. Because Marshawn Lattimore is a stud. This Adebo guy's a stud, even though you don't know about him. And Alontae Taylor in the nickel. You said he struggled last year, but they love this guy in New Orleans.
Well, I mean, when you even look at their stats, I mean, Adebo was the best cornerback, not Lattimore. He had 300 more snaps than Lattimore had too. So, I mean, you have good succession in there. You have good depth. You have good next man up thing going on right there.
Right.
There's the New Orleans Saints.
And then that brings us to number 5. Number 5. And that's your Detroit Lions with a revamped, overhauled secondary that Mike Clay from ESPN rated 6th best in the entire league. Now, I was not a homer and agree with that. If I thought they were 6th best in the end, I mean, in the entire league, they should fall within the top 4 or 3 of the NFC. But they come in at number 5. I'm trying to be realistic. We don't know what Terrion Arnold is. We think we know, but we don't know. We know what Carlton Davis is, and that's not good in zone. And we know what Amik Robertson is, and that's a dog who could play inside and outside. I don't care if he is 5'8". Guy's a dog. And then, of course, Brian Branch could be the best nickel slot corner in the league. He was almost that last year. But he might even just play safety. So it's hard to even put Brian Branch in the grading here. And even without Brian Branch, they're coming in solid at number 5 with the changes that Brad Holmes has made to this team, to the secondary.
And it goes into depth. It goes into the depth, and you have a whole bunch of guys that can play. Now, yeah, Carlton Davis did not grade out good in zone coverage. But you know what he did grade out good in? In man-to-man coverage. Do you know what they're going to have him do here? Probably more than any other cornerback, man-to-man coverage, because that's what he does. If that is what you have him do, then he can perform like a top 15 cornerback in the league. I don't know how good Terrion Arnold's going to be. I would love to think that he's going to lock down that other side, but we don't know yet. But you also have a Meek that can play inside, outside. You also have Emmanuel Mosley that, whether you want to believe in it or not, he is rehabbing and he's been here for 2 years learning the defense. He's a guy that's in there. So, and then Ennis Rakestraw. I mean, you drafted a cornerback in the 1st and 2nd round. So they didn't just overhaul the room. They completely changed the complexion of the room. Everybody out. And all these other guys in. 5 guys that are all better than the best guy you had last year.
And I think Matthias has a legit gripe here, but I think you're confusing something. We're only doing the NFC. Come from 30th last year, that's in the entire league, to 5th without 1 snap yet. No, it's just 5th in the NFC. That's where we're ranking these cornerbacks, this room. So
so it's out of 16.
Heck, it's hard to put him any lower than that. Like I said, Mike Clay had him 6th in the whole league. And I just couldn't see it based on what you're saying there, Matthias. Come on. That's too big of a jump. It's too much of an unknown. These guys haven't taken a snap yet. How
Right.
can you possibly
Right.
even quantify
Oh.
what it's going to be yet? You can't. You can only speculate. And speculation says from experts who know more than us that they would be the 6th best room in the whole league with the changes that they've made.
I agree with him. That's way too high to go up into 5th best in the entire league. Yeah, you gotta prove something for. There's so many good AFC teams for one thing. I mean,
Absolutely.
there would probably be 8 AFC teams that are ahead of the Lions. So they probably, to me, in my book, be around 13, 14 maybe in the NFL. Based off that.
In fact, on the ESPN list, 4 of the top 5 teams were AFC teams, and 4 of the bottom 5 were NFC teams. So there is a disparity there.
But yeah, you're right. We spent enough time, so we'll move on to the number 4 team. There you go, Mike.
The damn Seahawks.
Oh, you just gotta love it, right?
Tariq Woolen is a stud. They got Devin Witherspoon in his 2nd year, going to be the nickel corner. And then the other corner is Michael Jackson. Over on the other corner. You got Michael Jackson, Tariq Woolen, and Devin Witherspoon. That's a solid unit, folks, over there in Seattle. They just always are going to be a thorn in the side if you're an NFC team.
Yep.
They don't stop.
There were rumors when Devin Witherspoon came out that might have been the pick, but he was picked at what? He was picked at 5, 6, right?
6. No, he was picked at 5. We had 6.
We
and the rumor was Brad was going to take this kid at 6.
Yep.
And when they took him at 5, we moved back to 12 and took Jahmyr Gibbs
off the plan B. Yep. And look at the way he is. When you look at the PFF grades for the Seattle Seahawks, it's stellar. You're talking Witherspoon's top 2 in the league. I mean, he's awesome.
Roy is in the house. Seattle secondary is impressive.
You want to move on, or you
time to move on? And number 3.
Oh, there we go.
At? Where are you at? Where are you at, Bears fans?
Oh, there you go.
Getting you to do the Chicago Bears.
The Bears
coming at number 3. And that is a frontline Jalen Johnson, who's an all-pro. Just got the bag from Chicago as well to be there for 4 more years. Tyreek Stevenson, a guy that Russ and I looked at last year. We did a deep dive on him because there's a guy we thought maybe the Lions could snag. He's long. He had like 4 interceptions last year as a rookie. He's going to be the starting left corner now with Chicago. And then Kyler Gordon, savvy veteran, great player. So that's a hell of a trio right there. Jalen Johnson's Tyreek Stevenson and Kyler Gordon for the Chicago Bears. And the Chicago Bears came in number 7 on Mike Clay's list. They come in number 3 on the Villain Squad list.
All right. Well, I'll throw a shout out to Terrell Smith, who had 377 snaps and was a demon against the run right there. 83.2 PFF grade, 69.6 grade, and 71 in tackle grade, and 69.6 in an overall grade. And he wasn't bad in coverage at over 65 too. So another young player. So they are drafting and developing cornerbacks, and that's one of the reasons they're up that high on this list. It isn't just their frontline guys. Tyreek Stevenson wasn't even their dog. Their dog.
Yeah, and we're not even talking about Jaquan Brisker back there at safety either. So,
I mean, Kyler Gordon had a rough first year, but it really came on in the 2nd year and is establishing himself as a solid secondary dude. There you go, Chicago.
They come in a respectable number 3 on our list of 11, top 11 in our positional ranking. Why 11, Russ?
It takes more because ours goes to 11.
So that's it, number 3. So now it's time for the top 2. All right, number 2. It is the San Francisco 49ers. They got a guy named Charvarius Ward who's just pretty darn good. Ambry Thomas might be a weaker spot over there on the other side. I don't know much about him, and I was hoping you could give me some enlightenment through PFF. Diamador Lenore plays the nickel, and he's a great nickel corner over there. So they have 2 frontline guys out of the 3. But Ambry Thomas, I wasn't sure about, and he's the 3rd guy. But Lenore and Ward are so good that guy doesn't have to be that good to get them in the top 3.
Well, even Oliver is really good. Samuel Womack was good and very, very limited. Oliver played 503 snaps. And like you said, Ambry Thomas was a pretty good tackler.
What was his coverage grade?
His coverage grade, 61.5.
Anything over 69 is good. And he's at 61. So, yeah, you're probably looking at average. And that's your San Francisco 49ers, your NFC champions, come in at number 2 of the best cornerback rooms in the NFC. Time now for the number 1 cornerback room in the NFC. The number 1 most hated and the number 1 most loved team in the entire league. The scourge of the NFC East, the Dallas Cowboys, come in at number 1. But you cannot discount them, okay? They have Deron Bland and Trayvon Diggs as their first 2 corners, 2 studs. So, and here's another thing. Who's going to be the third guy? Well, last year it's Stephon Gilmore, and he's a free agent, but he's still with the Cowboys technically. Until he signs with someone else, we've got to pencil him into the Dallas room. And when you pencil in Stephon Gilmore, Deron Bland, and Trayvon Diggs, now you're looking at the best trio in the whole league. Mike Clay had Dallas rated 4th best in the league behind 3 AFC teams. They were the highest ranking NFC team on their list and on our list as well. Dallas Cowboys come in number 1 on our list of the top cornerback rooms as voted on by the Villain Squad. What do you think, Russ?
Bland and Diggs are awesome, but Diggs didn't get to play very much last year, so that's even going to be even crazier. But Goodwin was good in short spurts, and Jordan Lewis is the guy that's probably going to step in and get more snaps. He had 771 snaps last year. He was very good in the run defense. He was abysmal in coverage, so he reminds me a lot of a Kendall Vildor. They're their own version of him. But they do have a bunch of guys that played limited snaps that played really well when I'm looking at the PFF. So, I mean, they have the depth that's in there. So there's our overall list right there.
Roy makes a good point for Dallas and for the 49ers at the top there, though, that their pass rush really helps out those corners too. And that helps the numbers look really good. So that's a great point that should be mentioned.
That's a common denominator in a lot of these rooms because San Francisco is also very good again in the pass rush. And Chicago was very good at getting to the passer last year.
So there you go. Top 11 of your cornerback rooms.
There you go. My bad.
In the NFC. And next week, we're going to do defensive tackles, which is news to Russ. I know. Just DT, right? There's defensive end and then there's DT. If you're a nose guard in a 3, that's still you, right? It's okay to go to whole rooms at this point because obviously, like quarterback, you don't want to sit there and talk about Nate Sudfeld, right? So we didn't want to do the whole quarterback room. We just pulled the individual and we rated individual running backs. We didn't rate the whole room. But now with defensive tackle and defensive end, and it might be prudent to do the whole room like we just did with the corners because you know why? It's our show. We can do that.
Right.
We can
always go back and do the entire wide receiver room because it definitely does change the dynamic, doesn't it? Like,
it does for sure. And by the way, folks, there's only 62 days till the Detroit Lions kick off against the LA Rams on Sunday Night Football. Be sure to follow us on Facebook at Lions Villain Squad. Over 51,000 villains and going strong, charging hard towards this 2024 season. Also, go over to our YouTube. It's at Villain Squad. You don't have to type a bunch of stuff, just at Villain Squad, and there we are. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are broadcasting live into Detroit Lions News Podcast and also into the Huddle Sports Network on Roku, where you can also find Smoke and Jeremy B on the Huddle Network on Roku TV. Can't wait for this season. Adam McIntyre, I agree with you. Expectations have never been higher. It's Super Bowl victory, or this season's a disappointment, man. And it feels so weird to be a Lions fan all my life and be in that space. I feel like those entitled Packer fans. You know why? Because we're the NFC North champions. right now, and we're going to bask in that. We're not going to apologize for it. We're not going to apologize for it. We've been your punching bag for 60 years. And now this team is set up for success in the long term. So and for that reason, I really appreciate guys like Jason, guys like Steve, people like Sarah that represent other teams, and you still come over here to talk with us. And I want to be as respectful as I can because I respect that so much, because we are Kings of the North. For all of us here at the Villain Squad, including the Maestro Russell Wayne, I'm Main Event Mike. We'll see you next Monday at 7 p.m. Until then, God bless each and every one of you. Peace out.